gentlemen. I'm also very glad that I'm invited here to speak to you about our work at TNO. And this is only a small part I will present, but this is the part about organizational safety. And I will talk about some research we have done to link safety and core business of companies. And the title is Doing Right Things Right, which means that the research we have done is done in companies which are busy with the behavioral management. So they have done the technical adaptation, they've done a lot of human error analysis, but they want to change the way people think, act, behave, and so on. And so the link of safety and core business is an important one because that's a kind of precondition in safety science that when these two are linked, the company is real safe. The question is that true? So let me please take you with me and to the next elements. A short introduction, where I come from, who I am, where I work, an overview of recent problems in managing safety and how we look at safety from a TNO point of view, which are division in human factors, organizational factors, and technological factors. I will talk about the research done at the safety and core business, and we'll end with learning mechanisms within companies. But before I start, may I ask to you, who of you have a managerial responsibility? I see a hand. No hands. Okay, that's very interesting because my presentation is about behavioral management, managing behavior of other people, and that's not easy. That's very difficult. And as engineers, we're used to manage materials, not people. And that's the difference. The difference between the two. I hope I will show it to you how we look at the difference. So I start with the introduction, and my main. Before I start with the introduction, I want to tell you that my main message for the presentation is that organizational safety should be part of managing your business. So, the Netherlands, here I come from, this is a small country next to Germany, Dr. Leuven comes from. We are at the end of the main rivers running from the Alps in Europe, and we have about 16.3 million inhabitants with we are a constitutional monarchy with a two-tier parliament. We have two main industrial areas, the Rotterdam Harbour, which is here, and the Amsterdam Schiphol main port, which is here. And there are many process industry, mainly in Rotterdam. There is the most process industry, oil and gas, located. This is our GDP, of which industry makes up 25%, and the oil and gas industry consists of 80 companies with 62,500 employees and turnover of 24.5 billion euros. Well, in the Netherlands there is TNO. We are a research and development organization installed by law. So the government, the Dutch society wants to have an organization like TNO, and we have to do research between universities and the industry. We have 5 main areas. Quality of life, that's where my department is. We have defense, security and public safety department. That department has a large or a tight bond with the Ministry of Defense. We have science and industry, which develop many materials and production processes. We have built environment and geosciences, and we have information and communication technology. Well, where is TNO? We're in between the government and the industry, we're in between the universities and the polytechnics. We have 56 professors, 280 research assistants, and 6 lecturers on the polytechnics. You will see, if you follow my slides, that I added a few slides that are not in the handout. I'm sorry for that. So, problems in safety. This is also the slide that's not in the handout. Why is it important? Well, Professor Rasmussen from Denmark has developed a few years ago this model, so to say. And he says there are 3 lines of which, in which a company operates. That's the line of the personnel, the line of costs, and the line of, as you call it, acceptable operation. And between these 3 lines, the company has to operate and perform. But these 3 lines are under extreme pressure. The costs have to be reduced. That is this yellow arrow. Every manager has to show that he can produce cheaper with less money and produce more. So how can he reduce money? For instance, by working with less personnel, because people cost money, and so if you get them out, you save money. So there's a large yellow arrow for the personnel line. There's also, because of that, a sharp line on the acceptable operation, which leads to a smaller safety margin. Companies get fewer space to operate. So the operator in the control room or walking outside, or the maintenance employee gets more work, less time, and the chance of an error getting bigger and bigger. So he has drawn this schedule, and I think it gives a good example of the playing field of management, where on which buttons he can turn and where he is in. So, and it goes wrong. We know it all. It goes wrong. It goes maybe every month. It goes wrong somewhere. So I've got 2 accidents in our presentation. This is the accident in my country, the Netherlands, in Enschede in 2000. There was a firework storage and handling facility near in a town in Enschede, and the government knew that it wasn't really a safe facility, but they accepted it because there were a lot of jobs involved. So, well, it went wrong. There was an explosion with 23 deaths and 950 wounded. One example. The other example is the BP explosion in Texas. Maybe you have looked at it. There was a startup of an isomerization unit while the liquid level indicators failed of the column, which causes an overpressure of hydrocarbons. And there came a highly flammable vapor cloud, which was ignited, believe it or not, by a pickup truck. Just a pickup truck started and wanted to drive away. So explosions and fire killed 15 employees and injured 170. And of course there was much damage on the chemical storage. Much impact in the States. So if you look at recent problems in managing safety, then you can see on 2 levels, company level and governmental level. On company level, that there is, for instance, a focus on accident prevention for personal safety. The behavioral safety programs lead to personal safety, but not necessarily to process safety. The focus on personal safety is not a focus on integrity. It's not a focus on public safety, so it creates a false safety image. There is often no thorough incident analysis. Of course, the large incidents are investigated thoroughly, but the small day-to-day incidents are not analyzed, so you can't learn. Plant managers change once a year almost, so there is no bond between management and employees. There's no trust between employees and employers. that the employer only wants to reduce the number of people, and people wants to have certainty of their job. There's no reporting and learning culture, no openness, and suboptimal maintenance program in many cases. Subcontracting is also an issue. The discussion just after with Dr. Neuber was already mentioned. Subcontractors often have a lower safety awareness level than their own employees, but you invite them on your facility, so you have to deal with it. On the other hand, the law enforcement, the government, they try to cooperate, but often that doesn't go well, at least in the Netherlands. I don't know how it's here, but I can imagine that the cooperation between the law enforcers is just difficult to organize. And as I said, local government prefers employment above law enforcement. So when is a facility unacceptable for a government, for law enforcement? But these are recent problems, and let me take you to our look at safety. We distinguish human factors, organization factors, technological factors. These three creates the business processes you all design as engineers. So if we focus on those three, for instance, the human factors, and I will keep it short because Dr. Leu already gave a good overview, but I will pick out a few things she didn't mention. For instance, the cultural characteristics. If you have all in our country Dutch employees, then it's maybe easy, but that's not the case anymore. We have people from maybe 10 or 20 countries, speaking 10 or 20 languages, having 10 or 20 cultural characteristics as a person, which makes it very hard to manage it. Genetic characteristics, believe it or not. But if you look at those two figures, and the length of those two fingers depends on how many hormones you had when you were not born. If this finger is longer than this finger, then you have had more testosterone in the womb of your mother, and that leads to a higher risk proneness. That leads to a situation that you see less danger than other people. Having more testosterone before birth leads to a situation that you see less risks. So there are genetic differences, there are genetic characteristics of persons where you can do something with it. So there's a physical and psychological state of mind of people. And another one is sheep or wolf. A large study at the oil company of Shell showed that people can be distinguished between sheep and wolf. And a wolf follows the rules, but his own rules. A sheep follows the rules of the group, but the wolf doesn't follow the rules of the group, but the wolf follows his own rules. So if you have two types of people, sheep and wolves, that make it difficult. And what you see, managers are often wolves, because they follow their own rules, and they profit from the rules that they are in the group. And of course, to make it difficult, you have sheep and wolf clothing. And these are quite easy. They look like wolves, but they are sheep. So they keep on following the rules, they won't break the rules, and they follow the procedures. But the other part are more dangerous. These are the wolves in sheep clothing. You can't see them because they look like sheep, but they are wolves and they are only out for their own benefit. So if you're doing a study in human factors and you study how do people follow rules, the procedures, for instance, in your plant, and you don't know the difference between a sheep and wolf, then you can make errors. You don't get the real picture. So you have to keep that in mind. And if you want to create a climate where people follow the rules, then you should be aware of the rules. Okay, another way of looking at human factors, that's the second slide for it, is a managerial way. human factors are often considered as objective and rational. And I must say, if you give numbers to human factors, like the study of Dr. Leuven, then you're talking about the quite objective and rational aspects of human factor. You can give it a value. And that's for engineers, sorry to say, but for engineers that's very convenient. Because if you translate reality in numbers, you can get a hold on it. But that's, in our point of view, there's only one way of looking at reality. And you can manage that, of course, you can manage it, because these are rational and objective. So here is a list of objective and rational human factor elements, besides the elements Dr. Leuven mentioned. But there are also personal aspects which are inner personal, like feelings and qualities. And you can think of, for instance, ambitions, or roles people take or play, authenticity, or feelings and emotions. And there are, the third, the interpersonal aspects. And these are implicit and explicit aspects of social systems and the interactions between people. So there's communication, but also cooperation and leadership, inspiration, team spirit, but also conflicts between people. And the challenge for nowadays management is not only to manage, not only to manage these elements, like production targets and deliverables and output figures, to manage also personal and interpersonal aspects. And for engineers, that's often not easy. Because you are trained to create, to work with materials, and you're very good at it. And these personal and interpersonal aspects are not normally not part of your study in the past. So that's something we experience in many process companies, that conflict starts here on the right side of this schedule. So that's a challenge for managers to deal with that, and maybe also for engineers. So if you look at organizational factors, you have to have a safety management system. For instance, a risk management policy should be part of it, which means that you have concern about risks. You have to take action to control them and involve all levels for it. The open communication. People should address a situation when it's unsafe. If you look at behavior-based safety programs, then you have to say to your colleague that he is not operating in a right, safe way. And that is also very difficult. So you need a high level of trust to create that. Management commitment for safety. Every study shows that that's also one of the main issues. If managers show their commitment to create a safe environment and to really mean that they want to improve safety, then it creates a good safety climate or safety culture. If we look at the technological factors, we can look at inherent safety design principles, for instance. So then you can create a foolproof design. Then you need all the techniques Dr. Leuven presented. Because if you look at the human error, if you look at the possibility of human failure, you can create an environment where they can't make mistakes, or that you account for that mistake on forehand. So, but another thing is you have to have enough expertise in the crew for the total installation. If you have, for instance, a crew only with mechanical engineers, while you have a highly automated process with many electronic devices, then you create a problem in itself. Because you don't have anticipated on eventually electronic problems. Risk-based inspection, also very necessary to understand what the installation is doing. Maintenance plans and the use of reliability data. Okay, let's focus on the study we have done. to link safety on core business. These are the activities we have done in 3 years' time. Interview literature study, interview rounds, we checked statement lists with companies, risk analysis of some sectors, process, chemical, medical, food industry. We've done some case studies I will show you later on, and determining the effects of actual interventions. This is our present research. We look at interventions and we try to find how effective is it now. So this is the model we use for safety at core business. And we look at core business in these two elements. We look at core activities and core values. The core activities is what the company makes, produces. The steps, the transformation steps. Core values, which are connected to the culture of the company. And the competencies I was talking about. What kind of competencies does the company need? And we look at the outer shell, which we say, well, that is how safety is organized. So we look at the safety structure, the safety culture, and learning in safety. And as a whole, this represents the company which works in an environment. So there is also a link with the external surroundings. And let me introduce a little bit further those 4 elements of core business: safety structure, safety culture, learning, and the external environment. For instance, the core business. Core business, that's, you can talk about the primary process of a company. You have materials or energy as input, you have transformation, you have output. Of course, you need supportive processes and coordinating processes. Coordinating processes are system standards, tasks, responsibilities. And supportive processes are resources and means that are given to create the production. But the core business is something else. Core business is the way a company defines itself. What does I mean with this? You can say it in another way. For instance, Shell. You can call Shell, if you know Shell, the British Dutch oil company. You can say Shell is an oil company. Yeah, but in that case, they are looking for oil. They retract the oil, and they make from the crude oil, they make petrol and so on, and that's it. So that's not how Shell defines itself anymore. They used to do it, but not anymore. Why? Because now, for instance, 40% of their R&D money is spent on renewable energy. And that's got nothing to do with oil. So they define themselves as an energy delivery company that enhances the quality of society. And that's very interesting. So by defining your own company in a different way, you can do other things. You can create space for you, so you can have more room for instance, safer operation. And that safety structure I was talking about, safety management or safety structure. Well, when we did this study, we looked at the safety structure as being all positions and processes, policies and systems to work safely. So safety management is a method to control risk by the management process. And we look at the ISO 9000 circle, but then for related to safety. We looked at policy and planning, the goals which are set, the risk management program, the organizational procedures they introduced, and the communication method in a continuous improvement circle. And when you do this, you can do an audit, and you can give, for instance, a number between 1 and 5 to say this is the quality of your safety management. And we keep this always in mind. If the goals are poorly chosen, the planning will be done to reach the wrong goals. So we shall be doing things right, but not doing the right things. From Johan in 1988. Which means that the question is, are we doing the right things? The question is not, are we doing the things right? But the question is, are we doing the right things? And if you look at safety management, if you look at the goals that are set, then I always question, are these the right goals? Are these the right things? If you have only for instance, the measurement of accidents, well, I don't know about your companies, but if you have only one accident maybe a year, then you've got a nice goal, but you can't do anything with it. I mean, you're not monitoring, you're not setting the right goal in that way. So you should search for other goals. So in this study we looked at the safety culture. Besides the structure, we looked at the structure was connected with the core activities. We looked also at the safety culture. The safety culture was connected with the core values. And safety culture is a kind of buzzword. Everybody's talking about it. And it's very hard to define. And we like the description of Shine, which is an American management consultant. And he says, well, the shortest definition we found is the way we work here. That's the culture. So the culture is a result of collective learning processes. You can also say those collective learning processes are a result of shared assumptions which have been developed over time within a group to deal with problems. A group encounters problems, finds a solution, and those solutions are integrated in the way people work and are transferred to newcomers, which is also an important element. So if we look at safety culture, then we look at the basic assumptions. And we say that that is that part of the organizational culture which influences attitudes towards risk. And Shine uses this model, 3 layers, and the outer layer are the artifacts, as he calls them. And artifacts is everything you can see in here. Everything on the outer side. What people say, how people are clothing themselves. If there's a sign, keep hold on the shelf when you walk a stair. If there's a sign, wear your seatbelt in your car, and so on and so on. These are the outer signs of safety you can distinguish. In the middle circle, these are the espoused values, as he says. And those are the management messages. The messages management gives to employees, how to behave, and how to deal with safety. And in the core, these are the basic assumptions. You can't see them, you can't hear them, so you have to find them through the other layers. If you find inconsistencies between the other layers, then that is something you can call a basic assumption. Basic assumption is how people look at the world, how they deal with the world. So, if we do a study like this, then we get a qualitative description of the safety culture. And you can say it's an effective one or it's an ineffective safety culture. So the next is we have the structure, we have the culture, and the third was learning and safety. And Dr. Leuwe already mentioned it as well as the part of the organization, I believe, in the human factor paragraph of view. And this is the model we use for learning in safety. If you focus on accidents, for instance, that example I mentioned just a few minutes ago, you're focusing on results. You're focusing on what has been done. And of course, you have to do that. You have to do that to learn, to get better, to improve. So, but we call it the single loop learning. Because accidents is something you have done, and you translate it in lessons learned to do it better tomorrow. But if you focus on, for instance, doing things in a better way. For instance, when a pump is broken, you can repair it. But if it breaks again, then it's often not a good idea to repair it in the same way. You have to find another way to repair it. And maybe you have to go for another design of the pump. So if you go deeper into the problem, then you can go to the double loop learning, and you can introduce the lessons learned in the rules and procedures of your company. And then you're not talking about what to do, but you're talking about shall and may. You're talking about what people are supposed to do. So it's getting deeper already. And one step deeper is the triple loop learning. The know and understand. And then you integrate the lessons learned into your management structure. And the cultural loop, the last learning loop is the want and be, and that goes to the basic assumption I was talking about. And there again comes the choice what a company wants to be. What kind of company do you want to be? So the last part is the link with the external surroundings. And the role, we found that the attendance for safety depends also on the role the company plays to its external environment. It sounds strange maybe, but the most proactive companies have a good relationship with government, for instance. And they try to influence suppliers and contractors to deliver safe services. They have a role in standardization bodies, and they communicate with trade unions to keep them at peace. They play a role in enhancing the vicinity of the company and influencing the neighbors and communicate with inspectors. So again, it reflects the self-definition of the core business. And it's also an important element of trust within the company. So we have done case studies, 5 case studies, to analyze those 4 elements: structure, safety culture, learning and safety, and communication and link with the external surroundings. And we found with 5 companies here on a scale from 1 to 5, we found different numbers, so to say. When a company has a low number, then you can say that there's a wide gap between the core business and the way the company deals with safety. So for instance, company A is a car maker. So they uses metal, they uses chemicals to create cars, trucks. And you see that the structure and the learning mechanisms are quite good, but the culture is not focused on safety. The culture is focused on surviving, on growing, and on they had a few setbacks in production, and they felt it immediately because people were supposed to leave. Well, in that case, the culture was not open between employees and management. There was no reporting culture, so and that doesn't help for safety. So there was quite a big gap between the core values and the safety culture as we found it. And another company, company D, for instance, that was a very small chemical company, which had no attendance for safety whatsoever. Besides that they were working with pesticides, and the manager was coming from the did almost everything himself. So he was aware of it, but he didn't have introduced any safety measures. A month after our study, he hired an engineer who was specialized in safety. So probably the numbers now will be different than it were then. Well, I don't go into much details about it. Some conclusions about from our study. What are motivations for managers to put safety in the core business, to link them tight together? Well, many people see safety. Many people see safety as an intrinsic value, and for them it's a logical choice then to link their activities close to their activities in safety. What we also found was that the external pressure helped immensely. So a strong government, a strong inspectorate helped immensely to focus management on safety. But we always had the question that how deep runs the learning process. We found really much single and double loop learning, but the other two, the deeper kind of learning, was not found. And what we also found was quite interesting to us, that the tight coupling between core business and safety doesn't always guarantee a safe company. Because if you integrate everything, then safety is not explicit enough. If you want to manage safety separately from other processes within a company, you have to keep it explicit. And of course, if you have such a book with safety procedures, then that's maybe useful for lawyers, but it's not useful for the operator in the field. And again here, it depends what kind of organization wants the company to be. Is it proactive or not? So what we also found, some features of good safety performance, is an enforced safety role of middle managers. We found that the middle management line should get more responsibility in safety. We found that companies with good safety performance have well-defined roles in safety of all actors. Everyone has his own role in safety. For instance, signaling that things were going wrong somewhere. Closed learning loops with involvement of employee. So if someone registers an unsafe situation, it should be analyzed, it should be reported back what's going to do with the findings, and it should lead to action to improve. Attention for safety during change, and I mean companies are constant in a constant change process, whether it be reorganization, whether it be fusion, merging with other companies, and if you lose attention for safety, then that can be a disaster, so to say. And last but not least, the trust and openness towards external actors can be an important part. So that leads for me to the last slide, and to say that organizational safety should be part of managing your business, and if not, then especially